Well, putting it back together is actually quite simple. Just take the parts. Nope, it doesn't work that way. Well, I guess our video editor is on vacation, so I'll just have to put it back together manually. I will start with the magazine release because this is probably the hardest part to put back on. We need the parts, we also need a punch, tweezers, this thingy, the other thingy, so this thingy, but you can make this yourself by grinding a flat head screwdriver or something similar. You will use this for adjusting the spring. And we also need a temporary pin that is half the length of the original one to hold everything together. So first, this magazine release push button has to be put in with these markings facing towards up of the grip. It won't stay there, but for now it's okay. Now you have to assemble the spring with the help of this temporary pin. It's really hard to explain everything and do this on camera, so please bear with me. Now just one of the tricky parts. I'll use tweezers to put it in place. Please don't move, please don't move. So that's in. I'll hold it down with my finger. Now we pushed the pin out from the right side. So from the right side out, and we will push it in here. So okay. So now you need your punch and try to push out the temporary pin and use the punch to hold everything in. It will need some adjusting and wiggling here. Yes! Okay. So the punch is now holding everything in. Now we'll use the pin. It should have a narrower side, which should go in first. And by pushing it in, you push the punch out. Here you can see that it properly engaged the spring and everything. Okay, and you need to push it just a bit more in. Okay. Good, it holds. Now, best is to use maybe this kind of tool. You could probably do this with a normal screwdriver, but it's really hard. I'll try to point it towards the camera. Okay, so you need to push this part of spring inside here. Yeah, my head is in the shot, but I cannot help it. It's really tricky. So to the side and in. Whoa! I cannot believe it. Good, 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 good. Now the only thing that you need to do now is to push this spring to the left, so it's fully engaged. This is just in case, so it doesn't disengage by accident. Punch. Yeah, I think this is it. Now let's move on to the hammer. Before putting the hammer in, you will need to insert the ejector. Into the proper hole, of course. And now hammer and this hammer pin, the hollow pin. I'll put some grease on it, first to lubricate it, and secondly to hold it in place so it doesn't move when I'm assembling it. Oh yeah, I would need 3 hands. To get the hammer in properly, right here, hopefully you can see there is a spring inside, and you need to hook it. Need to hook it on the hammer. So first go in, hook the hammer up. Okay, and that's it. Now the pin. Nice. Okay. Now I will start with the spring and this detent for the safety on this side. This will be tricky. This is very, very tricky. Need to push the pin and detent in and try to remove the punch. I think I did it. Yes, it clicks. It holds in for now. I will hold it with this finger here. And now for the second part of the safety. Like this. Okay, very good. And now to hold it in place, the safety pin, the small little pin. Now this will be tricky, but I have a pair of hands to help me, right? Thank you very much. Where's the pin? Okay, here. Oh yes, this will be tricky. This. Nice, okay. At least it's engaged a bit. You know. Ta-da! It's simple. Okay, now we try the safety is working. Guys, this is one of the things why I said that I don't recommend disassembly from this point on, because there's a lot of parts that you can lose, and it's really it's hard to put it back together just all by yourself. Okay, so this is one part finished. Let's move on to the trigger sear. So I'll put the trigger sear into position. This will be fun. And I will use the punch to hold it in place. Nice. Okay. Now I need to set up the spring. Fucking tweezers. Okay. It's still good. It's still good. Now the pin. So I am pushing the pin in and pushing the punch out on the other side. So now the pin is holding everything in here together. Turn it this way. Now I push the pin out a bit so I can put the plate in. And I'll try to push the pin back in to engage it properly. Yes. Very good, okay. That worked. Now I can use maybe a flat head screwdriver or something similar to push the upper part of the spring under this. Almost. Yes. Yeah, that's it. Let's move on. For the decocker, you need to put this retaining plate from the inside out in this position. Oh, yes. Of course, why should we do it in one take? Let's try it again. Should I use a hammer? Ah, no. You see, it works without a hammer. Okay. the lever goes here, and now the spring engages here, and then I can use maybe the needle nose pliers to put it in place. Very good. Now, because I see that this decocker now is moving in the up position, I remember that I could put the decocker stop spring in. It goes in from this side, if you remember. Try to turn it so you can see it. Okay. And now I need to push the decocker down, the spring goes in. And again I can use something to push it into place. Yeah, the click, that was the proper, yeah, you should hear a click. Okay. To put the trigger in, you need to connect it with the trigger bar. And insert it with the trigger bar first, then the trigger. Well, it looks in place. Now use the trigger pin. You will need to put it, it doesn't matter from which side you put it in, but this notch here has to be on the right side of the handgun, and these notches here have to be aligned towards the front. Okay. Now to put the slide stop in, you first need to push the trigger pin out a bit, insert the slide stop inside the handgun obviously, and then push the pin into place again. Okay, now I'll put in the trigger bar spring. So first you put the spring in here into the trigger bar and then engage it here. You see, simple, very simple. The locking block is a bit tricky to put in, but not that hard. So first you need to put the spring here. This will actually hold in the disassembly lever. And then this is important, you have to insert the trigger pin in correctly, and if it moved when you were assembling it, it needs to be straight like this. You can adjust it if you want with a flathead screwdriver. Now for the tricky part. When you are inserting the locking block, you need to be careful because the end of the spring on the locking block has to engage this notch here. This is the slide stop that moves here. It has a notch in this position. The end of the spring, this end here on the locking block, has to engage it when you insert it. So first you start with the rear end. Okay, it is in the right position, but you will need to visually check. It's hard to show it on the camera. You'll need to visually check if here in this position the spring has engaged it, but you can also do this. You can hold the block and try if the slide stop, see, I can push it up, but when I release it, it jumps down. So that means that it has proper spring engagement. And now the only thing left for the locking block is to insert the disassembly lever. So if you see, it's cut here. So you'll have to rotate it with this side down so it clears the spring. This, rotate it in one side to push the spring. Again. Okay. Yep. Last thing before you put the grips on is the hammer spring and the hammer spring guide rod, which you will have to put together on a bench vise. So to put the spring and the spring guide back together, we'll use a bench vise, a punch, and some pliers. Okay, we'll start with clamping down the hammer spring guide with this part facing away from you. Now we put on the spring. Note that the end of the spring here, it doesn't matter which way you turn it, but the end of the spring should be on one side or the other. Here. Now use the pliers to grab, oh shit, this will be hard, to grab the spring in the upwards part. You will need to push it down and insert the punch from the right side in. Okay, almost. Nope, again. Yes. I will just move it out a bit. Okay, so this is the right position. As you can see, the hammer spring guide and the spring in this configuration with the punch. Okay, now that we have it in one part, we'll insert it into the frame. First, decock the hammer. Now, when you're inserting the trigger guide rod, go with the bottom part first, and you will have to, when you lower it, you will have to also turn in the counterclockwise position. And this will be a bit fiddly, but this portion of the trigger spring guide rod has to engage with the hammer up here. So you need to wiggle it into there, and maybe use a flat screwdriver to push it to the left. And if everything is a good position, when I push the hammer, it will move the spring and the guide rod. Okay, yeah, it's moving it. Nah, something is wrong. Yeah, now it's engaged. I will cock the hammer, and now I will use the screwdriver to hold the spring in and try to remove the punch. And this should be actually it. Okay, so this is engaged really good. The hammer is cocked. Let's try the trigger. Yeah, so it locks back, the spring is working, and the trigger is working. Very good. At least grips should be quite easy to install. Now the last thing is to put together the slide. as you remember, we removed the firing spring and this firing spring blocking block, I think. So first you need to insert it into the slide. Spring first, obviously. And the firing spring has to be inserted with these serrations towards the top of the slide. In our case, because the slide is like this, we have to insert it with serrations downwards. To get it in, you will need to push the blocking block down as far as it goes. The firing pin goes in, and then when you release it, it should retain the firing pin. You can use a punch or something to try the firing pin. Okay, now it's blocked by the block. Now if I press it just half the way, the firing pin is moving freely. So that's the proper operation. The only thing left is to put the pin in. Try not to damage the slide, as I almost did. This is the best moment. We are finally at the end, and the only things that you need to put together is the barrel into the slide, the recoil spring and the recoil spring guide, the recoil spring and the recoil spring guide. I said the recoil spring and the spring guide. The recoil spring and the recoil spring guide.
It's really late.
Okay, so when we have everything back together, we take the pistol grip, we take the slide, we align the rails, and now you just pull the slide back and front. Everything should lock by itself. Now you do the function test and the safety check. Okay, the safety works, the trigger works, the reset works. I think everything is okay. So with this, we finally conclude our disassembly and assembly of the handgun. So now, after a successful assembly, I will test the handgun. It works! It works! Yeah, it actually works. Very good. I'm proud of myself.